Okay, I want you to look at this picture. Tell me everything that you see. Now just think it in your mind. But particularly, I want you to focus on those names that you see. This is a picture of the 9/11 memorial. About 18 years ago, thousands of people lost their lives when two airplanes crashed into the two towers, and thousands of workers and thousands of people and thousands of families were affected by this. Everyone across the U.S. was affected. A few years ago, I was able to attend this memorial, and I was able to see how emotional it was, how America was impacted, and how the people who lost families could easily still be struggling today. So today, I would like to focus on 3 things. The first is how these families could be experiencing trauma from this event today. The second is how these people need support, and how people need to be aware of what they're going through. And the third is that the reasons why we need to support these people and help be aware of this. So the first one is how these people are still experiencing trauma today. Clearly, families who lost loved ones, they are still suffering. That is something that can never be given back to them. They lost these family members, and they need support because of that. Now, there are some people who think that grieving has a time limit, and it doesn't. And it's always going to be difficult for these family members because you can't make up the loss of a loved one. Dana Garfin talks about how these people are experiencing trauma, not just from missing their loved ones, but from seeing things in the media, and from every single day. We live in a time where technology is prevalent, where we can basically reach everything at our fingertips. We live in a time where movies are becoming more and more violent, and it's really easy for these people who were able to watch those events on television to be able to relive those events just through similar experiences, similar thoughts and feelings, from movies, YouTube videos, things like that, where it's easy to feel those same emotions that they felt on that day. And every time they watch something or see something that helps them feel those emotions, they are constantly reliving the trauma. And so that is the first thing. People are still experiencing that trauma. Just because it's over doesn't mean that it's over for them. They are still reliving it. They are still experiencing the effects on their lives every single day. The second point that I wanted to make was how these people need support. Bessel van der Kolk wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score. He is a psychologist, and he discusses a lot in this book how it is important to have meaningful relationships, not just acquaintances, but meaningful relationships in order to heal. That way we have some form of support. That way we have some way to acknowledge what is going on in our lives and someone to report what we are feeling to. It helps us so much with our healing and with what we need to overcome. If we do not have support from others, we do not heal. That's just something that happens, and that is especially true for these victims, or these survivors from 9/11, who have lost loved ones, who have lost friends, family, work members. It is just as true for them that they need that support, especially today when everybody thinks that those effects are gone. Just because it happened 18 years ago does not mean that it's over. It doesn't mean that those impacts won't come up. It means that they need family, they need friends, they need people who, yes, even years after the event, are still willing to be there to talk to them and to help them in the move forward from these events. The third point I would like to make, they need to accept what happened. It is so easy for people to try and hide it, to try and numb what they experienced. It's kind of a natural reaction because it's so difficult, it's so horrific that people don't want to accept what happened. And Joe Pierre, who is another psychologist who specializes in trauma, has mentioned that the best way to heal from it, the best way to move forward, is to never forget what happened that day. Never forget what happened on 9/11, and never forget the things that, the losses that were made, the people that were unwillingly sacrificed to take that blow. We need to remember those people. We need to honor them, and we need to also remember that it is possible to move forward. Here we are 18 years later, and we are still standing. We still have a life to live, and if we do not remember the past, there's no way we can move forward and make the future a better place for us. We need to understand that that living in fear isn't an option. If we forget, if we try to hide it, if we try to numb our history as a country, we are living in fear. And we can't overcome what happened. We can't move forward. We can't become better than we ever were if we are constantly living in fear, if we are constantly trying to hide our past. That is something that is crucial to remember, that we need to be aware of how we are living in the past. Now, again, as I leave you today, I'd like to just re-emphasize those ideas. The first is that people who have experienced trauma, people who experienced that 9/11, who lost survivors, are still suffering from it, are still having those traumatic experiences, and some of them are still reliving it. We need to give them our support. We need to be there for them, and we need to understand that they can't move forward unless they have that support. Another thing to remember, the last thing to remember, is that we need to stop living in fear. In order to move forward, we need to accept the past, and in order to become better, we need to accept it and learn from it. Thank you.